Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our webinar series, Securing Data and Access in the Era of AI. I'm Diana Vicesar, Product Marketing Manager on the Microsoft Entra team, and your host for this week. If today is your first time joining us, welcome. We have a packed week of webinars. If you missed the first one, it is now available on demand for you. Yesterday, Microsoft Entra and Purview product leaders, Sinead O'Donovan and Mathilde Dendich, shared with us our insights on why organizations need a strategy that brings together identity, access, and data protection. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Alexander Pawlowski and Brendan Lee, who will showcase how Entra and Purview bring real-time visibility and control to sensitive data in motion across the network. We will host a Q&A with our product experts at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions come up throughout the session, please leave them in the comments. Now, let's welcome our product leaders, Alexander and Brendan. Thanks for joining us today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your work in Entra and Purview?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexander Pawlowski. I am on the Global Secure Access team, a product manager.
And my name is Brendan Lee. I'm on the Purview Data Loss Prevention team. I've been working with the Entra team the last couple of years to build out our product here.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Without further ado, Alex, please take it over.
Today's organizations are facing a new reality. AI is rapidly changing the way organizations operate, and with it, the way we must think about security. The number of identities and endpoints is growing exponentially, driven by both human users and non-human entities. In tandem, these new identities and endpoints drive exponential growth in enterprise data. The expansion brings incredible innovation, but also dramatically increases the risk surface that security teams must protect.
Each identity represents a possible entry point for attackers, and all of the enterprise data that identity has access to must be protected, not just at rest, but as the data is used and shared internally or outside of the organization. To help illustrate these evolving security challenges, consider this. AI-related security incidents are no longer rare events. 70% of organizations now report AI-related incidents because access no longer stops at apps or files. It now includes prompts, agents, connectors, and data moving in ways traditional controls were never designed to see. Additionally, the use of generative AI has translated to explosive growth in the volume of enterprise data that now must be secured. 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years, and that will only accelerate.
And on top of all that, it's no longer just traditional users whose access and data must be protected. By 2029, 60% of secure access requests are expected to come from non-human identities, including AI agents. That fundamentally changes how access must be secured at scale. AI unlocks enormous opportunity, but it also raises the stakes. If you cannot see and control access, you cannot safely unlock the value AI promises. To keep up with this evolving security risk landscape, organizations need a security model that enables continuous evaluation, access governance, and ubiquitous protection across humans, machines, and agents. And of course, that needs to operate in tandem with data security controls to ensure that sensitive organizational data, your digital crown jewels, is being used by the right entities and that data is not leaving the trust boundaries of the organization. That's the beauty of Microsoft security. So no matter who or where the request is coming from, with Entra, you have one home to enable secure access, an access fabric that unites identity and network access into one dynamic defense. Identity and network access work as one across AI apps, internet traffic, and private resources, all under unified policy.
And with Purview, you have one home to manage how data should be secured across the data estate, no matter where it lives, is used, or travels. Whether the data is interacted with in an application, downloaded to and shared from devices, or increasingly shared to unmanaged browsers or consumer-grade AI apps, we can wrap Purview protections around every emerging scenario where users or agents may interact with sensitive data. For the rest of the time today, we're going to be discussing how Purview and Entra are partnering together to secure those growing scenarios in which sensitive data may be shared with potentially risky locations.
What this integration enables is for security teams to enforce identity and context-aware policies at the network layer to prevent data leakage. Combine Purview and Entra Global Secure Access security profiles for granular control over file movement without impacting productivity. Unify incident investigation in Defender, Alerts are correlated with broader security incidents and automatically enriched with identity context from Entra and data and insider risk context from Purview. Let's see how all this comes together in practice.
As users work across SaaS apps, websites, and AI services, based on configured policies, relevant traffic is captured and steered to Entra GSA for identity-aware processing. When content needs to be evaluated, based on Purview policies like data loss prevention, Entra will route the content over to Purview for classification and policy evaluation, utilizing the same sensitive information types, classifiers, labels, and user risk data powering and enriching other Purview policies. The resulting verdict, such as blocking the activity, is then communicated back to Entra GSA, who enforces that decision in the path of data movement. That's the strength of this joint solution. Access and data protection decisions happen together in real time, ensuring sensitive data doesn't leave the organization. This, combined with all of Purview and Entra's other controls, ensures a layered approach to data security, even for interactions that happen outside of normal protection channels, such as unmanaged browsers and consumer AI apps. Finally, when detailed investigation is needed, Microsoft Defender brings these signals together by correlating alerts with broader related activity, giving security teams the full context of what happened, what data was involved, and how to respond. All right, next we'll walk through a demo of setting up network data security in both Purview and Entra Global Secure Access and see it protect AI interactions in real time. Let's start with reviewing the configuration. We'll create a couple policies, one in Microsoft Purview, and then the other in Entra GSA. And then we'll see those policies work in action as we jump over to an end user device. So within Microsoft Purview, there's two different ways that you can get started with network data security. One is through data security posture management. DSPM allows organizations to see what is going on in their organization and then tailor custom policies based on those insights within the organization. From within DSPM, I'm going to go to objectives and scroll down here, and you can see there's already a prevent exfiltration to risky destinations objective that's ready to remediate. So I'm going to click view remediation plan, and I'm going to scroll down and see this prevent loss of sensitive data to unmanaged cloud apps. This objective is created because we've already discovered sensitive information that's been shared to external locations, including attachments that's sent through Exchange, Teams to external parties, as well as documents that are shared from SharePoint. If you look at this policy, it applies to network, which includes Entra Internet Access Protection, and it's in currently simulation mode. That way you can see what is being actually protected before actually enforcing it. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And as you can see, one click and we've created a policy that now protects unmanaged cloud apps and any sensitive information that may be transferred to those cloud apps based on sensitive information we've seen transferred to other external locations within your organization. Now, for those that need a more granular policy, you can also create a custom inline web traffic policy from data loss prevention. So I'm going to go to solutions, and then I'm going to go to data loss prevention and policies. Once within the policy screen of data loss prevention, we're going to click create policy. And we have two different options here now, two different scenarios that you may want to protect. Enterprise applications and devices, and this is more like native application control where DLP is built directly into the application, like Exchange and Teams and SharePoint and other M365 locations. The other is inline web traffic policy or scenario. And this is where we cover anything with web traffic that's occurring. And that's where we use our integration with internet access, as well as our Edge for Business browser protections to protect that sensitive information from being transferred that way. So we're going to click inline web traffic, and I'm going to go ahead and go to a custom policy. I'm going to change my policy name to block Java IP shared with generative AI. I'm going to change the description of the policy to this policy will block the upload of Java intellectual property shared with generative AI services. Click next. Now, the first thing that we do after creating a name and adding a description is deciding which locations we want to protect with this policy. So I'm going to click add cloud apps. We pull this data all directly from the Defender Cloud App Catalog. So you have one source of Cloud App information. And with that, you can select whatever Cloud Apps that are available within the Defender Cloud App Catalog, including generative AI services like Claude, or any other category out there, including cloud storage like Dropbox and others. You can also choose to use an adaptive app scope, which is basically like applying a policy to a category. And for this specific policy, we want to apply a policy that applies to all unmanaged AI apps. So I'm going to select that and click Add. If you need to, you can edit the scope. You may want to start with a smaller scope of users. In this case, I'm going to apply it to all and select all. I'm going to click Next. So the next thing that we choose after we've defined our destinations for this policy is where we want the policy to apply. And we have two options, within Edge for Business, as well as within Network with our integration with Entra Internet Access. And these serve two different purposes, really, as part of our layered protection strategy. Most users, of course, do a lot of their work within Edge for Business, right? So that's where this policy being applied to Edge for Business will be able to protect anything that they do within generative AI within the Edge for Business browser. The integration with Entra Internet Access is there to help protect whenever the user's not doing something in Edge for Business, right? So whether it's a different unmanaged browser or maybe within an actual AI application, such as the ChatGPT desktop application, or maybe through an API or command line. That's where network data security with Entra Internet Access and Microsoft Purview excel. So from here, we're going to keep both selected because we'll want the policy to be able to apply to both. Next, we're going to configure the rules for this policy. We're going to click Next and create our first rule. And we're going to give the rule a name of block upload text and file with Zava IP. We're going to first configure the conditions for this rule. In this case, we want to look for Zava IP, which is a custom sensitive information type that I've already created within this tenant. So I'm going to select content contains, add sensitive information types, and then I'm going to search for Zava. And there's our custom sensitive information type for our intellectual property. Go ahead and add it. The next thing that I need to do after I've defined what to look for is what to do once we find it. And that's under actions. So I'm going to click add, restrict browser and network activities. And I mentioned this is an upload policy. So I'm going to say text sent to or shared with Cloud AI apps, as well as files uploaded to or shared with Cloud AI apps. I also want to block this interaction. So I'm going to go ahead and choose block. You could choose audit only if you just want to know what's happening out there, what your users are doing before making sort of a more enforcement type decision like block. In this case, we're going to choose block so that we can demo it. The next thing that we configure is the user notifications. So we can configure with this integration a email notification. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on and choose the user who performed the activity. This will provide a good email notification to the user who may have been blocked from doing something to provide them awareness as to why they were blocked, why it didn't work, and what to do in the case of it being blocked. I'm going to select my incident report severity of high. This will determine what level of alert we should generate based on any matches to this rule. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. We click next. Now we have a few different options for policy mode. We can create the policy in simulation mode, in which we won't actually block something. We'll just sort of audit only, and you'll be able to make decisions based on that simulation, whether you want to enforce the policy. In this case, we're going to go ahead and turn the policy on immediately. You also have the option of leaving the policy off. This is great if you're not entirely sure if the policy's completed yet. You may want to save it, come back to it tomorrow, or have somebody else take a look at it as well. Once we've configured everything, we're going to hit submit to create that policy. Great, the policy's been created. Now you can see as one of the next steps, the next thing that we would want to do is configure the Entra Internet Access configuration with a content policy. We have a button here that'll go directly into Entra to configure that. I do want to add one more detail that these policies don't have to be created in this order. You can create the policy in Entra and then the policy in Purview, or you can create the policies in Purview and then Entra. It doesn't matter. Once they're all created, it'll start working seamlessly. All right, now I'm going to hand it over to Alexander to set up the Entra Internet Access content policy.
Thank you, Brendan. So here we're going to create a content policy. I'm just going to click on this create policy button and give it a name. We'll call it policy. You can add a description for later reference, or we'll just leave it blank for now. We'll go into rules and add a rule here. Now we can set up rule names. You can have multiple rules for different scenarios. And here under action, we'll select scan with Purview. And we'll pick activities, for example, both download and upload. And now we can pick all content types. You can also set this up to apply to a specific type of a file. And here we're going to select all under text content types for content scanning. Now you have an option of configuring this either for user-based sessions, for agentic sessions that we will detect, or both. So here we'll just select both. Lastly, you can add destinations. So if you would like to set this up for a specific web category, FQDN or URL, you can do that. Or we'll just pick the artificial intelligence category here to prevent exfiltration to various cloud AI services. And then we can click add to create that policy and finish it here. Once the policy is created, you can link it to a security profile and assign different policies to different users through Entra conditional access. And now let's see these policies in action.
All right, we're going to jump over to an end user machine now where Adele is using the ChatGPT desktop application. So keep in mind, this is not in a browser. This is an installed application on the machine, which previously would have been virtually invisible to some of the protection out there. Let's say Adele wants to go ahead and upload a document and get back a briefing from ChatGPT about that document. Now, this document is a sensitive document within the Zava organization. So it's going to be labeled. It's going to have certain sensitive information within it. Let's go ahead and see if once she adds it, we immediately get a block. And you can see how quick that is. Entra picks up that data. It sends it over to Purview. Purview decides, okay, based on the Purview DLP policy, this content is not allowed, and then sends that information back to Entra, who then enforces it. Now, so Adele says she can't upload files. So instead, she's just going to type out what she wants. Great. So now she's not uploading a file because she knows she can't do that. That was blocked. So now she's typed it out and she's going to try to send it to ChatGPT. And again, immediately with the power of the integration of Entra Global Secure Access, Internet Access, and Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention, we've went ahead and blocked this prompt.
We can see that sensitive data is protected and cannot be exfiltrated or uploaded to generative AI systems. With that, how does an administrator get visibility into the insights of what happened and why things were blocked?
Great question, Alexander. So let's jump back over into the Purview portal. And I'm going to play the part of now the investigator or the DLP admin, reviewing the alerts that come in based on what Adele just did. So I'm going to go from my DLP policy screen over to alerts. And as you can see, we've got a bunch of alerts that have come through. We can expand on one of them. And we can see a bunch of different alerts that have happened based on ChatGPT exfiltration. So if I click on that, I can then see a bunch of different data and details about what happened. We can see that the policy that blocked it was this. We can see what was actually detected. We can even click on that and see the individual data that was detected within that file so that we can tell if it was a false alert or false positive or not. We can also see what happened. So we know that it was blocked, and we can see that, it was Adele and the time and all the other good details that help an investigator understand, what's happening here. Now, if I close that, we can also jump over to Defender. Defender helps sort of bring all of these signals in together from all of the different sources across M365 and beyond. So it's not just about what Adele did in ChatGPT right then, but what was Adele doing in SharePoint before that? What was she doing on her device? Was she copying a bunch of stuff over to a USB drive? Was she sending things out through Exchange, right? So all of these signals can be sort of correlated into a single incident within Defender, which is a super powerful capability. So you can click on that. You can expand into all of the things that Adele did. You can get all that great detail that we had within the alert in Purview, now in Defender, so that you can correlate it with different things that are happening across the organization, related or unrelated to this specific incident.
Now you've seen how organizations' data is protected across Microsoft Purview and Microsoft Entra Internet Access. And all of this incredible value is now available in Microsoft 365 E7. E7 features the advanced data security capabilities in Purview Suite, the identity and access capabilities in Entra Suite, all of the security guardrails you need for AI agents in Agent 365, and much more.
Thank you so much, Alex and Brendan, for such a great presentation and detailed demo. I'm pretty sure the audience has lots of questions, so we're going to get into the Q&A portion of this session. We're going to cover some frequently asked questions. So the first one is, do these policies apply to the whole organization, or can they be applied granularly to users and groups? Brendan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Purview side, when you configure a policy, you do have the ability to scope it to all users, or you can scope it to specific users and groups. You can also apply it to specific groups and then exclude specific users from that group. So you have a ton of flexibility in the Purview policy to scope it to different groups of users.
Awesome. Thank you for that great answer. Moving on to the next question, very important one. What are the prerequisites to make this capability work?
You can use Entra Internet Access Remote Networks capability now to take Internet access traffic through a branch connectivity scenario where client installation is not necessary, as well as use the explicit forward proxy capability where you just configure any browser with pack files, and that traffic will also go through global secure access. So plenty of options to take that traffic, but the traffic does need to traverse through Entra Internet Access somehow in order for those policies to apply.
So the last question of the day is about the super detailed demo you all showcased today. So in the demo, we saw visibility from both the perspective of Purview and Defender. But can you speak on what level of visibility is available on the Entra side?
Absolutely. Entra Internet Access network logging capabilities give you the visibility that you need to see what has happened when those transactions were attempted. There is a network log, network traffic log, where you can see a particular network flows, as well as the specifics around any of those block actions, where you'll see that something happened because the Purview scan resulted in a content policy match and a denial. So all of those logs are available. And of course, with Entra ID, you also see the sign-in activities of the users. And all of those logs can be sent to a SIEM tool like Sentinel, so that all of that is correlated as part of your security operations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Brendan and Alexander, for the great presentation. And again, everyone else in the audience, if you have more questions, please leave them in the comments. We're going to do our best to answer all of them. That said, Brendan, Alexander, any final words for our audience today?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Give it a shot in your attendance. Let us know what you think.
And again, if you want to learn more about the capabilities that Brendan and Alex talked about today, please take a look at these resources in the slide. As a reminder, tomorrow we'll continue with another great demo session from Entra and Purview, where we'll cover practical ways to unlock AI agents while keeping access and data protection aligned with your security needs. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you all tomorrow.